Assalamu alaikum, which means may peace be with you all. And this is our NAMCC's mental health session that we do every month as an initiative to create awareness of mental health in our community. And um, and before we begin, let's make a small dua because we all start with dua, which is just praising the Lord. And then after we, and with His name we start. So, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul uqdatan min lisani yafqahu qawli. Allahumma salli wa sallim ala nabiyyina Muhammad. Today we have a very, very different and interesting session from two one of the graduate and one undergraduate student who are very passionate about their work, and they have started this initiative as what is called a Mental Health Initiative for South Asians, MHISA, and created a workshop to create awareness amongst the South Asian community in particular regarding mental health and its importance in our daily lives. And they have their personal experience around it that motivated them to start this initiative, as they had lost one of their colleagues to a mental health incident. And they are very we've had multiple interactions with them, and mashallah, they are very passionate about this and they have their perspective. So I hope that we can all benefit from this, especially parents of teenagers, younger adults who are struggling with certain things, have questions. I think this is a very different uh, audience and presenters who can answer and talk to you all in a very different way. So let's benefit from this, inshallah. And I am going to let them introduce themselves in detail here, and take the stage from here. And before we begin, one of the things is, if any of our attendees here in this session wants to ask questions, please just go ahead and raise your hand. I will monitor that and I will go unmute you so you can interact with them, because we want to make this as interactive as possible, answer things for you all. So please feel free to interrupt in between. Is that right, Siddharth?
Yes, that would be perfect.
Okay, so we have Siddharth Reddy, who is a graduate student, and Mehvi Sheikh, who is an undergraduate student at UT, and they will take it from here.
Okay, thank you very much for that introduction. Once again, my name is Siddharth. I have Mehvish with me conducting our mental health workshop today. Today, we're going to be focusing on some of the more cultural factors that we face in our communities, including stigma and how that impacts those around us. And in terms of our general culture, how we interact with stigma. So first, we have a free workshop questionnaire. And so what we would love for you guys to do is maybe we'll also put the link for that in the Zoom chat. And go ahead and open that up and answer the questions that are there. It should take no more than just 3 to 5 minutes, if that. And then once you have finished that, please let us know in the Zoom chat once again. I'm not entirely sure if you're able to type in there. However, either that or you can do the raise hand function or the thumbs up function for the Zoom. And so we'll just give you
Siddharth, I think when you were sending before, it was only to hosts and panelists. So I'm going to just copy that again, and I'm putting it for everyone. So I hope everyone now has it.
Okay.
So just resend the form again. So I hope everyone is able to see that and they're able to fill that.
Okay, thank you very much.
If you have your phones handy, then I think the QR code should work too, and that could be a simple.
And if you're having any difficulties with opening it or anything like that, please feel free to speak up or send us a message in the Zoom chat.
So I filled it myself and I am done. I hope that everybody else would also, just for that to let you know.
Okay, awesome. I have seen your response come in, and hopefully we'll start seeing the rest of the responses coming in. What we can do now is move forward with our presentation and give a little bit of an introduction of ourselves and on what our organization is doing. Um, and then in the meanwhile, if you're still working on filling out this form, please go ahead and do so. Continue to fill out the form, and then join us once again once you have completed it. And by the time that we have introduced ourselves, you should be able to complete it. So our organization is called MHISA, Mental Health Initiative for South Asians. And MHISA is focused on bringing mental health education and awareness to the South Asian community. And so we have a variety of ways in which we do that, which is by going to communities and their events and the places of worship in order to speak with community members and engage in discussions about the challenges that they face in their communities. regarding this. And so I'm going to go ahead and pass it off to Mavish to start our workshop.
Salam, everyone. So my name is Maywish, and I'm going to go ahead and just get started with the workshop. So we have incredible strength in our ummah, and through Allah, we are so blessed to have people around us to look to for support, and our faith gives us the strength to do so. Taking steps to keep ourselves, our community, our family is very important. Help ye one another in righteousness and piety from Surah Al-Madiyah. In our culture, taking care of our physical health is very apparent. If we have diabetes, high cholesterol, or if we're sick, we go to the doctors and we take daily medications to manage it. If we break a bone, we go to the emergency room and get that taken care of. Even with no specific problems, we do go to the doctors for our yearly checkup. So we have no problems telling our friends and family that we're physically unwell and that we need some time or support to feel better. However, we view our mental health in an entirely different way. The stigma of mental health in our community is very apparent. Often, an overwhelming amount of shame or judgment can cause us to hide what's going on in our lives. Our culture often has emotions that we label as negative, such as long periods of sadness or anxiousness, and because of this, we often hide those emotions and just say that they're temporary. We avoid them and say that they'll get better on their own, and we'll just feel uncomfortable sharing them with others. And when we hide these emotions, it often prevents us from getting the support that would help us greatly. So on the slide, we can see that 1 in 5 US South Asians report experiencing mood or anxiety disorder in their lifetime, and mental health problems are common for US South Asians. So everyone is going through something, and it is common to think, oh, something like this would never happen to me or to anyone I know. We often think that there needs to be a reason or justification for our struggles, but in reality, our mental health is simply something we manage every day. Although we may hide it, every person is dealing with their mental health. So, in order to decrease the stigma of mental health in our communities, we need to create a cultural shift towards sharing our struggles with each other. Through opening these conversations, we must work against the judgment, shame, and expectations that make talking about mental health difficult. And you are an active member in creating this cultural shift. I remember when I was back in high school, my mental health took a hit in so many different aspects, and I was always afraid of talking to my parents. They're Pakistani immigrants, and I was afraid of talking to them because of the pushback that I could potentially receive from them. But I wanted to change this because I knew that my parents are my closest support system. I mean, I go home to them, I see them every day. So it's really important that I know that such a consistent support system is going to be there for me. So I slowly just started opening up to my parents about my days and about school. I started small, nothing crazy. I just discussed frustrations with school or stresses with the exams. But over time, these conversations became about much deeper topics and almost became routine in our lives. And even to this day, I don't feel fear when I'm talking to my parents and stressors in my life. And that relationship does go both ways. So as we progress through the following projects, we have 5 key goals that we'd like you to keep in mind, which we have displayed on the screen. So 1, mental health is just as important as our physical health. 2, we need to understand how to manage our own mental health and how to seek professional help when needed. 3, know how to approach healthy conversations about your own mental health with others. 4, know how to approach healthy conversations about another's mental health. And then 5, create a personal culture where mental health conversations are open and encouraged. Many of us believe that mental health is only for those that are pagal. Mental health is, in fact, a spectrum. Some may have daily stressors that they face, but others may also have a diagnosable mental illness. So, no matter where you fall on this spectrum, these goals are incredibly important to our health and the health of our loved ones. So, saying all that, we're going to go ahead and go into our first engagement activity. So we have the questions displayed on the screen, and you can go ahead and read that for yourselves. And we want to open the floor to discussion about what you guys think of these questions whenever you see these questions. So the first one, what do you feel is our community's current attitude towards mental health? So what are some common myths, and how do you think these myths impact those who are struggling? 2, how do you feel hesitant to talk about your mental health? What are the thoughts and fears that hold you back? And 3, how can we as a community change our attitudes and behaviors to be more supportive of mental health? So I want you guys to take a few minutes to kind of think these through, formulate an answer, or even discuss with others in the Zoom meeting about what you think of the questions, what comes to mind. Yeah.
And Dr. Khatri, are we able to hear the attendees?
That's what I was saying. I think they can raise their hand, and I can ask everybody to unmute and maybe.
Oh, yes, we have one attendee raising their hand, so that would be perfect.
Okay, I think they can go ahead and talk now.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Okay, assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam.
So, yeah, I feel the current attitude is still very negative. It might be, I think it's shifting more in the younger generation. Um, so, common myths about mental health. I would hear things like, oh, the past generations be like, I went through this, 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 and this. So you can do it, what are your struggles compared to mine? And, just pray a lot. I do believe in the power of prayer. I think that's very important. But I want to make clear that mental health is a broad spectrum. I mean, there are the small environmental factors that can affect, mental health, and then like the diagnosed ones, like we are speaking about as well. So some people need more help than that. And so I think there's always, you need more than one factor to address. It's not a one fit solution. You need multiple factors to address the problem. So how do these myths impact those who are struggling? So how do these myths impact those who are struggling? Well, it leads to isolation. Very much so. You feel like you can't talk to anyone. You go into a deeper depression. Definitely. And that's where, things like, I hear people like doing self-harming and cutting themselves. So things like that happen. Yeah. So do I feel hesitant to talk about my mental health? Sure. I would only talk to someone close to me, or someone trustworthy. Definitely not just anyone. But the South Asian community, there's a stigma. Just talking to some other mothers who were open about things like their social anxiety, they themselves shared that, my mom's like, oh, that's nothing. And, don't, like, oh, it's nothing, don't worry about it. So, there's definitely still a lot of that going on. And how we can change our attitudes is definitely what we're doing today. Having an open, honest discussion about it, and that everyone's experience is going to be different. You range from mild to severe, so everyone's experience is going to be different, and just being open and honest about it, and being showing your support. I think more than anything means a lot to the person going through that issue. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that was great. As you were talking, you mentioned a couple things that reminded me of my own experiences, like, how parents will say like, "Oh, like I went through XYZ, so you
Mhm.
can handle this." I remember like my dad when sometimes whenever in the past, he's gone a lot more better about this now, but sometimes I would be like, "I'm really stressed for this exam. I need to do good on it. I'm pre-med, so I needed like grades are very important." And I would explain all this to him and then he'd be like, "Oh yeah, but like I have to work and provide for a family. I have to pay bills and all of this, like all of that." And it just kind of like invalidated like my stress. It was like, "Oh, like what my dad is doing is way more stressful, so like I shouldn't have to be stressed." And like it's just like I wish, like, parents wouldn't see, like, stressors as being, like, a competition, like, I mean, I guess, like, objectively speaking, like, providing for a family is probably more stressful than me stressing about my OChem exam, but, like, also the way it's affecting us, like, the way he has to provide for his family, do the responsibilities he has to take care of, it's affecting him in a similar way that my OChem exam is affecting me. Cause and so I I just remembered that when you were speaking, and it's just my dad's gotten a lot more better about that. I've sat him down many times and I was like, "Listen, like I understand you're going through a lot of stressful things in life as well, but it's not a competition. It's not about one-upping. It's I'm coming to you because I am stressed and I want the support of my father to like help me feel better, you know? Or at least just kind of, do stuff like that."
Right.
That is great. I don't know if anybody else is also. Oh, I'm sorry, I raised my own hand. But I had something to add on here. And that's I have a different perspective. I have a perspective from every angle. So I'm just going to speak in that as a physician, as well as a parent myself and a child myself, and in multiple other roles in the community, as a wife, as multiple other things. I have one thing to say is that the attitudes are definitely changing. People do understand and accept um, the mental health much more at this time. And somebody who's struggling, the biggest challenge I face as a physician or to explain to others is because when you say, and Sid, when you mentioned we have diabetes, and Mehwish did that too, we have diabetes, we have high blood pressure, we have these other medical illnesses, we have objective findings to it. By that, what I mean objective is you have a number. You have a number of blood pressure. You have a number of blood sugar. You have a number to tell you what this is running, what is happening here. And you have somebody to say, okay, you do have high blood pressure. I mean, yes, I validate that. You do have diabetes. Well, absolutely, your sugar numbers are high. But in mental health, what happens is, what is your number? It is very subjective. It's so to everybody, that's a subjective. Feelings are so subjective, thoughts are subjective. So you ask them on a scale of 1 to 10, how do you feel about this, how do you feel about this, and you have your own assessments, and they are mostly questionnaire based assessments, correct? So everybody is going to have a different number on each one of them. So those make it very difficult for people, I think, to accept that, hey, this is true for them, this is how they're feeling, this is validate that, as you said, that's important, not to unvalidate it. And yes, after that, to find a solution, because as a child, and you all are in medical school, pre-med and med school, and I went through that exact same, and I know every high schooler probably has their different levels, and school students, each for the student, that homework is stressful. For the adult, something else is stressful. That particular time of their life, that particular challenge is different to them. So I think understanding that and validating that is important, because I remember my parents, like my parent validating it, saying, yes, you're stressed, but why? Okay, you haven't revised it. Okay, why don't try to find a solution? Do this, do that, do this. So that takes your stress to be validated, yes, and then you're trying to find a solution to that. So you feel like, okay, I am not, just wrong in thinking that way, but I can find a solution to this. So the same, I think, we as members of this community, parents, whatever roles we are in, I think one of the things we can do is, yes, validate, but at the same time empower that other person to think and see where they can come and find their own solutions and help them if needed and provide them with that right support.
Thank you for your response, Dr. Khatri. I think you hit on a lot of really great points, and I agree. Taking that step to not only validate but kind of empower that individual is very, very impactful. And I do believe the attitude is slowly changing, and hopefully, things like this as well as is it Samiha? Is that how it's pronounced?
Yes, Samia.
Samya. And just as you are here to join us in our conversation and regarding mental health topics, I think that's a great sign for not only yourself, but those around you, because I believe that impact resonates. Once you begin to kind of bring these things up in either a family setting or around the dinner table, as we like to call it, having these conversations is highly impactful and gets people to begin thinking about the impact that their mental health has on their daily life, or that their mental health has on others. And I think that's very powerful. So I'm very, very glad that you shared your experience, and you spoke about a few things that we'll definitely get into within our slideshow a little bit later on, including the dismissal, and Mavish has also kind of shared her experience on that. And so we'll kind of go through some of the factors of how dismissal occurs in our community, and how we can kind of hope to resolve that as well. So Mavish, would you like to move forward?
Yep. All right. So throughout this series of workshops, we're going to have different conversations on various aspects of our South Asians culture's attitude towards mental health. Our first mental health conversation with someone can be intimidating when the people that we love, like our spouse, kids, parents, friends, and they come to us with emotions that make us feel concerned for them. It's easy to react out of fear that something will happen to them or that we have caused this issue. Because of this, it's really important that we're prepared and knowing how to approach this information without reacting out of fear or panic. A common question that we get is, my family and friends don't have any mental health struggles. Why should I have to learn this, or why should we have these conversations? For this, we want to remind you that everyone's going through something, whether it's the small daily stressors of life or a mental health disorder. Everyone can communicate about their situation. It's very important to open up these conversations so that if someone is in a situation where they are struggling in the future, a relationship has been built so that they can feel comfortable to talk about it, even if they may be struggling right now and they're hiding it from fear. And also, Sid, just stay on this slide for a, and then we'll go to the next one after. So I remember this is like a recent, I guess, development from the summer, but I knew I saw an evolution in my relationship between me and my dad this past summer. My dad had sat me down and he discussed his recent health issues with me. Immediately, I was feeling really scared because my dad, who has been in top physical shape for my whole life, was experiencing health issues. It did scare me. However, I could also see in his eyes that he was really scared. He was scared for what was to come, and so scared that he started crying into my arms. Mind you, I had only seen my dad cry, I think, like 3 times in my life, and that was when his dad died, my grandpa, when I moved away for college, and now this. But despite my fear of what was to come, I was able to talk him through his fears, and I reassured him that everything's going to be okay. And even when I was talking to him and reassuring him that everything's going to be okay, I also found myself calming down a lot more, that there's nothing to worry about right now. We will get through this. And in that moment, I reflect, looking back, I just saw that how the culmination of my years of efforts had finally paid off. So I say all of that just so I can, just so you guys have an idea that, like, oh, like, it's possible to have these conversations. It will benefit everyone. So now I'm going to go on and kind of explain how we can do that. So we have to first practice being comfortable with sharing and exploring our own emotions. When we talk about our emotions openly, others are more likely to feel comfortable and being emotionally open with us. Sometimes we may feel embarrassed to do so, and we think that others may judge or shame us. But in order to speak about our mental health, the foundation is sharing our emotions in an open and honest way. In this way, we can care for others and for ourselves. So, yeah. So when processing our emotions, we have a few key things that to keep in mind. So listen and accept. Pay attention to what you're feeling without distractions and make space for those emotions. Accept them for what they are and don't be judgmental to yourselves, even if you don't think that they match who you think you should be. The second one is to express those emotions. Once you recognize those feelings, expressing them can help a lot. Speak them out or even just write in a journal freely without overthinking. Letting those emotions will allow you to understand them better and give you that release you need. And then number three, support. So when dealing with painful emotions, it's crucial to approach them with care and understanding and acknowledge and validate those feelings without judgment and recognize that those emotions are real and they are important. In the South Asian culture, there are some obstacles to emotional processing that we may feel. So let's brainstorm some of those obstacles. So this is kind of where I'm like going to open the floor to all of y'all to discuss. I can kind of give some ideas. So I know that especially in South Asian culture, there are some certain norms of gender and identity, such as the expectation for men to be tough. So that makes it a bit more difficult for men to feel like they want to open emotions because there is that idea that, oh, emotions means I'm weak, you know? There's also, we've been taught to silence and hide the bad emotions. So can any of you guys also think of any other obstacles that makes it harder for one to express their emotions or discuss their mental health?
Yeah, and I think one key thing to highlight here is pay attention to what you're feeling without distractions. Um, and so one thing that I would love for you guys to share is what are some of the distractions in your life that may make it difficult to sit down and really settle in with your own emotions? And sometimes it feels like everything is just moving really fast. What are some of those things in your life? Go ahead, Samya.
Sure. I mean, maybe for moms, it could be like getting, the kids come back at a certain, already late from school, getting dinner and, trying to rush, get them to bed on time.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And from the perspective of maybe a student or somebody that is going through their schooling, just all of the assignments and the pressures and expectations that you have on yourself and maybe others have on you to succeed and make things work and all of these things. And um, as you had said, Samya, in terms of being a parent, the priority that you feel on taking care of others and um, I think one important thing to keep in mind for all of us is that as we try to take care of others and as we try to, um, make the best of our situations to um, support everybody around us, a large consideration of that is to take care of ourselves, because the only way that we can take care of others is to take care of ourselves initially. And I think I personally experienced this in the past year or so. I having worked in and currently working in a healthcare setting, you feel that your desire to help others and support everybody is will kind of outweigh your own emotional processing. And I realized I had burned myself out, and I had become very, very stressed, and I was sleeping very poorly. And once I set aside some time in my days to take 10 minutes in the morning, as well as 10 minutes before I go to bed, to really just write down everything from my day and make sure that I'm cognizant of everything that's gone on that day, and the emotions that I've experienced, and the stress that is affecting me. I think that was very impactful for me. So one suggestion for making space for those emotions is to kind of take the first 10 minutes and last 10 minutes of your wakeful day to journal, or to kind of express your emotions within a written sense, or if you have somebody around you, such as a spouse, or maybe a roommate, or whoever it may be, to discuss with them, how your day went, and kind of how these stressors are impacting you, just to continue to be aware of these things around you. I think it's very easy to become unaware of these things. And so, yeah, I'll give maybe um, um, uh, maybe 30 seconds or so if anybody else would like to raise their hand or share. Dr. Guthrie, is it possible to move everybody into this main room? I was wondering, in that case, they could very easily unmute their
I don't think I'm able to do that because those are as attendees and the others panelists, and that was something that was sent through Zoom, but I can look into the settings and see.
No worries. And so, if you are interested in sharing your experiences, please go ahead and raise your hands. And Maywish, do you have anything, any suggestions in mind for things that you do to make space for your emotions?
Yeah, one thing that I tend to do, so personally I weightlift, and so whenever whenever I'm really busy, there's one thing I will always set aside for my day, and that's my workouts with weightlifting, and it's usually like an hour or 2 hours depending on how busy I am, but that is something that has really improved my mental health because whenever I go to the gym and I work out, one, I'm doing something for myself. I'm doing something to better myself, and also that time alone has proved really beneficial for me because it's just kind of like me, and for it's like one of those few it's like the few moments of my days where I'm not worried about like what time what do I have to do for work? What do I have to do for my exam? And all the other stressors I have in my life. It's just me being like, okay, what workout am I going to do next? And then usually I'm just in the gym and I just kind of like think through a lot of emotions. I usually have music playing, so like I feel like I'm in an isolated setting even though there's other people around, but I really enjoyed so I've noticed doing stuff for myself, it provides me those moments where I can fully just kind of be by myself. I can just kind of think to myself and reflect on my day, reflect on what I'm feeling. And just the fact that I'm doing something better for myself in some aspect greatly helps me just feel better about myself overall. It's like, yes, I might be stressed about this exam I have coming up, but I am so proud of myself for taking this time out of my day to do something for myself only to better myself. So I think a lot of like self-care activities is also really beneficial. Like, even if it's like, I'm going to put a face mask on and sit in my bed for 20 minutes while I let this dry. I think that would be great. working out. Even I love taking walks around like where I live near campus. I love to go like a little 30-minute walk, and it's
Oh.
so nice, especially with the weather so beautiful now. It's just I play some music and I'm just kind of walking aimlessly wherever my heart desires. And just like little things like that has proven really beneficial for me to make space for my emotions and make sure that overall I am supporting myself. So so that
I
was
wanted,
a little,
sorry, I wanted to pose the question to Dr. Khatri as well. What do you do, Dr. Khatri, to kind of support your emotional well-being and be able to express yourself?
A tough one for me, honestly. Yeah, but I do agree with you on that. As a healthcare provider, you're taking so much emotionally from others when you're helping people around you in that moment. And that takes a big toll when you want to do all of that together, and then you want to take care of other things around you. Um, I am still working on it, I want to say. I'm not as good as any of you guys, honestly. But I have found that reflecting on your day and trying to get somebody to help you if you need is is my way. I have some um, support, some friends, some family members. I like to talk. I like to talk it out. That is how it goes. But I have also learned that trying to journal and talking out while journaling is a better solution, honestly, than just trying to think in your head. So I think that's something that I'm working on. I'm not going to say that that's what I do, but yes, that's a work in progress for me, honestly. And so that's something that I would do.
yeah,
Thank
and
you.
that's amazing to hear. I have the mindset that even doing some like a little bit of something to work towards your goal, like even just like 1% better is always better than like nothing. And like noticing that like you want to be better, I like be journaling more often or journaling on a more routine basis. I think that's great. And it's really good that you recognize that you do have those support systems in place. And I think it's really great that that you're aspiring to like do better and like, help yourself in that regard.
Yeah, I
I
think the most important thing is right now for me is becoming self-aware, which I was never before. So that's the first step towards it, is to become self-aware of my own emotions and my own self and to see where I am. And after that, take what I need to do, because I always have this habit of shutting down, as you had said, like, going to a cocoon and want to hide of it. That's a coping role, probably not the unhealthy way of coping it, but that's what I would like to change eventually. And I like that idea when you said a little bit is better than nothing. So even if you could do one thing that day, it's okay. Give yourself that grace and move forward, because another day is a different day. So take it that way.
Yeah. And I really enjoy the conversation that we're having in that everybody, it's a journey for everybody. Nobody is perfect when it comes to dealing with their stressors and all of these things. But as Dr. Guthrie had said, is one of the first steps is to really listen to yourself, become self-aware, and accept the emotions that you're feeling. And then from there, understanding outlets for how you can um, express those in a way that's healthy for you, and take care of yourself in that way. So, um, yeah, let's go ahead and move forward here.
All right, so we do have the second engagement activity, and we have the questions displayed on the screen. I feel like we kind of hit a little bit of all three of these questions in the discussion we just had, but I still want to keep the floor open to any more people who want to chime in on the conversation and discuss if they ever had an experience like where you felt emotional, if you ever had an experience where you felt like you had to avoid emotions. And I want you guys to also reflect, what are the benefits of being open with your family and friends? But also, what are the challenges that come with that? So I can kind of start. I will kind of like discuss number 3 because I have a couple of thoughts, but I think one of the biggest benefits I can see is that being open with your emotions, I think that brings a sense of closeness with your family and friends, or becoming closer, because you are just got being in that state of vulnerability. It's hard to want to open up, and I understand that, but when you're in that state of vulnerability and you seek out the family members that you feel comfortable talking to, or the friends you feel comfortable talking to, I think that really brings that sense of closeness, but also it kind of shows to those family and friends that you care for them and you trust them and you feel safe with them. And as a friend, if I see that a friend is coming to me to express their emotions or what they're going through, on that end, I would personally be thinking like, wow, like I must be doing something right. I have created that safe space for me and that friend, for her to feel safe to open up to me. And so I think that's one of the benefits, just like that sense of closeness and camaraderie. And then also some challenges, I guess I hit on a little bit, is being vulnerable. It's a little bit harder sometimes to want to be vulnerable, but I definitely do think that, like, oh, having practice of opening up and discussing, it definitely makes it more easier to be in that state of vulnerability and showing others that you're vulnerable. If there's anything else you guys want to add or discuss, we would love to hear it.
I just have a comment on that. It's so what you said is absolutely, very true, that the discussing with your family and your friends is very beneficial. It is something that I think is an essential part of each family, because what happens is we don't have very commonly this discussion at the dinner table every night, or a time for that every day in our lives, that hey, how was your day, what was stressing you out, what was happening. And it's not very common to see now, which as a child I had. I had that dinner with people, with family. I remember it's not, you'd see people together. It's not like you're in an isolated environment, just working all the time and just trying to manage everything. So you need that time with your family, and being open when somebody is telling you that this is how they, or your child or somebody is telling you, it's like, oh, okay, you feel that way. Okay, why? What makes you feel that way? What's happening? Tell me more. Or rather, like, like, oh, really? How? Why? You shouldn't be feeling like that. I'm like, that's the end of the discussion. You terminated it in a very different way when we try to say that, oh, really? Like, or make a face and be like, that's not right. That's not how you should feel. Like that. Well, they feel it that way. Just listen and then take it from there and then go forward. But that's I think a very big challenge when you're opening up to somebody, and when somebody is not, they shut you down, like that's how you're feeling is not right, then that will stop the conversation. So probably taking that not to stop it but to take it further is always better. Or when we have to mind how we talk, and that's something I need to work on myself. The tone we talk, the way we are, our body language. We learn so much in our work, how we are supposed to sit, how do we listen to the people, how we interact with them, and what time we give, and those things. But when it comes to our own people, I am guilty of that myself. I would be a very different person at work. The Dr. Khatri would be different than the mother, then the then the wife would be very different, judging others around me. So I wish I could bring that more, the skills that I normally would use at my work, more around the people around me.
Yeah. And I'm really glad that we're hitting on multiple of these points, because I think it's great for each of us to share what we do to support ourselves, and the ways that we talk to our family and friends, as Dr. Khatri had brought up, of dinner table conversations, of how did how did your day go? What were some of the stressors? And highlighting, some of those things of a lot of the times we only focus on the good things that happened. But sometimes it's beneficial for us to talk about some of these things that were not so great, so that we can let it out. Otherwise, it builds and it builds and it builds, and it eventually affects us in a way that maybe spills over, and we have a reaction that we would not want to have. And so I think we can take inspiration from each other on uh, having these conversations, and the ways in which we can do so. Maybe, is there anything that you wanted to add?
Nope, I think I got everything I wanted to say.
Okay.
All
Let's
right.
go forward.
So going into the little last leg, so just as there are ways to navigate our own emotional processing, when listening to someone else's emotional vulnerability, we should keep the following points in mind, which we have displayed on the screen. So first and foremost, don't be judgmental. We should never judge someone else or their emotions. And when we do judge someone and say how those feelings are not proper or normal, they are less likely to share with us in the future. So in the Surah Al-Hujurat, O you who have believed, let not a people ridicule another people, perhaps they may be better than them. 2, listen before speaking. So before you speak, allow the other person to express themselves in their entirety. Don't interrupt them, and show signs of active listening, such as nodding your head to reaffirm to the other person that you are listening to them. You're not just hearing them, but in fact, you are listening to them. In the Surah Al-Zumar, who listen to speech and follow the best of it, those are the ones Allah has guided, and those are people of understanding. The third point is don't be dismissive. We have to believe that someone's feelings are valid. We shouldn't make them feel like that their problems are not as significant as they feel, as everyone handles situations and emotions that follow them differently. So some examples could be, you'll be fine, just get some sleep, or you're not actually sad, or I understand real sadness because I went through XYZ problem in my life. Our loved ones just want to be heard and understood, and being dismissive of that does the opposite of our main goal. The fourth one is being patient. So not everyone's going to feel better the first time they have a conversation. Being someone's emotional support system requires being consistently available to that person. Our mental health is a journey that takes time and requires different levels of interaction. So there is a hadith, and the messenger of Allah said, a Muslim is the brother of a Muslim. He should neither deceive him, nor lie to him, nor leave him without assistance. Everything belonging to a Muslim is inviolable for a Muslim, his honor, his blood, and his property. Piety is here, and as he pointed to his chest, it is evil. It is enough evil for a Muslim to look down upon his Muslim brother. Then number 5 is boundaries and asking how you can help. So oftentimes we rush to give advice on a situation. When someone comes with an issue of how they're feeling, we jump to immediately providing a solution. However, this may not be what someone is looking for. Sometimes they're just looking for a listening ear to express their emotions. On the other hand, they may still be grieving and would rather hear advice at a later time. So before providing your advice, ask them a form of the question, such as, what do you think will help? Or how can I support you? Mental health conversations can start with a simple question. So here are a few questions that could open up a conversation. So first of all, don't overthink it and keep it casual. You could just literally say, how have you been feeling today? And then also express your concern. So you could say, it seems like you have been really stressed out about work. Is everything okay? So our focus is on creating that safe space that allows others to feel comfortable with sharing their struggles. Sharing details about our mental health first is a good way to create that safe space. So many of us assume that our friends and family will come to us in a time of need. More specifically, many parents assume that their children will openly tell them about their mental struggles. However, gaining another's trust requires intentionally creating that safe space for them through our own actions. The trust that they can approach you without feeling embarrassed, shame, or dismissed in any environment, that they will be accepted with open arms, full of kindness, understanding, and respect. Especially with the youth of this generation, it is very important to create that safe space. Just because the kids are young and growing, it does not mean that they can't experience their own mental health struggles. A lot of times, parents will dismiss their kids' struggles as a lack of real world experience, for example. But these are valuable opportunities to get to know how to best support your child in their times of need. There's the common assumption that parents often make that mental health struggles always have to start with some single stressful, traumatic life experience. But this isn't necessarily true. Parents always wonder, what did I do wrong or what went wrong? But this is not always the case. For example, Alhamdulillah, I grew up with two parents, roof over my head. I never worried about food on the dinner table. I never worried about not getting something I wanted. I had a very blessed upbringing. However, I never experienced a traumatic upbringing, yet I still did face certain mental health issues throughout middle school and high school. So just because you may have just because you have that blessed upbringing, that doesn't make you immune to certain mental health struggles. So in this next project, we will talk about healthy ways to manage and maintain our mental health. We'll talk about some specific warning signs that we can observe in ourselves and others, and how we can approach starting a conversation about them. So we have one last little discussion activity. I have the questions displayed on the slide. So, one, what fears or concerns do you have about starting a mental health conversation with someone close to you, and how can those be addressed? The second question, are there any emotions that we typically hide from others? What about yourself? Maybe you deny that you even have these emotions. What do you think those emotions are? And then three, what impact does creating a safe space have for our mental health conversations? So you guys can take some time to kind of think of an answer, and then we'll go ahead and discuss.
And one thing that I would want to add to this as well is anything that you have kind of reflected on during this workshop, and um, maybe some things that you've heard either us or any of those who have spoken, and maybe some inspiration that you took from that, or some things that you feel like you um, would like to start doing for your own mental health. Some of these little steps that we were talking about in the previous um, discussion activity. And for myself, I believe that just as Dr. Khatri said about trying to get better at all of these things, I feel the same way. Some days I open a journal and write down some of these things, and other days I don't. And trying to make that a more consistent thing is something that is a goal of mine. And so I would kind of put that out there. Maybe is there anything that you would want to share about um, ways that you want to kind of improve and yeah.
Yeah, I definitely do want to start journaling. I've been saying that for like a little bit of time now, but I've never actually started. But more and more as days go by, like I learn more of the benefits of journaling, and it's not a crazy activity. It's 5 to 10 minutes. It doesn't even have to be a fancy journal, like a little piece of paper, and you just kind of write out your feelings at the beginning of the day or at the end of the day. And I find those times to be like the most peaceful part of my day, like the first 10 minutes and the last 10 minutes of your waking day, to just kind of reflect, to kind of set, just to kind of like release whatever emotions you are holding. But also something else I want to improve on is just kind of me, myself, trusting others with emotions, because I'm an individual. With all my friends, I always make it a point to be like, if there is anything that you ever need, if you ever need a support system, if you ever just need a friend, I will be there. I will not judge. I make it a point to all my friends, but I feel like I don't give myself that same grace. I feel that I don't feel comfortable opening up to others, and I can kind of see like how that's like not, I don't know how to describe it. Like, it's kind of weird that like I allow others to come to me, but I don't allow myself to open up to others. And it's not that I don't trust other people to be there for me. It's just, I don't know. I think I sometimes like I'm working on it every day, but I still see sometimes as like whenever I'm struggling through something, I see it as like a moment of weakness. And I think one, I was reflecting on this throughout the entire workshop, even when I was talking. I think that something that comes from the fact that like back in like middle school, I was a very academically inclined student, but whenever I would get even like a question wrong in class or something, there would be people who ridiculed me and made me really embarrassed. And I think that carried on to this day. So even to this day, people see me as a very academically inclined student. They have certain expectations for me to always be successful. I'm their role model. And so whenever I feel like I'm not living up to that expectation, I sometimes I just start kind of beating myself up for it, like, "What are you doing? Like, this isn't right." And then I get stressed, and then I just get kind of like enter that little cocoon status, and I just kind of hide away from the world. But and I recognize that's not right, and I am actively trying to become better at it, but that's definitely something I want to be better at, just being more comfortable myself with others as well.
Yeah, I think that's a great point that you shared, that sometimes when we don't have this outlet for maybe consistently expressing ourselves, these small stressors that we face maybe um, can build up a lot and eventually affect us in the future. So just as you had kind of experienced that in your time as a, in your middle school, school age child stage, um, that eventually created this environment in which it impacted you to this day. And so that's really the power and importance of having these conversations, is not only does it impact you now, but down the road, whenever, you know, uh, you feel that you're not experiencing the direct emotion of those things, it can still be affecting you on a deeper level. And so that is truly the impact of having this self-awareness in the present moment. So it doesn't allow it to fester and kind of affect you many, many years down the road. And I think that's very important. And please feel free to raise your hand to share maybe some things about creating a safe space for others in mental health conversations. One thing that I want to highlight once again is that um, many of us assume that there is a safe space. Many of us assume that, oh, if this person is struggling, they'll, find their way to talk to me about it. But just as we have our own reservations about talking to others, they have those same reservations, if not more. Um, and so what I would want to say to that is initiating these conversations and really making an effort to um, make this a priority in your life and theirs is very impactful, because it allows things not to kind of just slip under the rug whenever they may be not that serious, as we may say. Um, so yeah, I do think that creating this safe space and having a proactive approach to these topics is incredibly important. Maywish, is there anything else that you wanted to add to that? And feel free, any of the participants that have joined us, if you'd like to speak on your behalf as well.
I think I'm good.
Okay. Samia, go ahead.
I feel awful that I'm the one holding breath.
No, don't laugh.
We
We love.
love that you're
Please,
sharing.
whoever else wants to talk, but I just wanted to emphasize some of the statements as well that were made, that key points that you guys made was gaining another's trust requires intentionally creating that safe space. That was very important, I feel. And intentionally creating, like, just like we would make appointments, doctor's appointments or anything, hey, make an appointment as a parent, make that time for your children. If you have more than one, you do one-on-ones with them. And, so that they know that you are there for them and you are listening. And I think what you said was like being consistent is the key as well. And none of us are perfect. Things do come in the way. The other key point that I think Mewish said was blessed upbringing doesn't make you immune to mental health issues. This is just very important, because I think what we end up feeling, and Mewish, you can speak to this, is then you feel guilty. Well, I had everything in the world, and so why am I feeling this way? I shouldn't be feeling this way. And that's not true. You have every right to your feelings. So
Yeah, to kind of add to that comment, I remember so many times in my life I would feel stressed about something, but I remember like my mom or dad would say like, "Oh, like imagine how many people are homeless and they're going through something like they don't have a house, or people who don't have two good parents and they don't get food, like how stressed they are." And it's like obviously like it's like they're not in a good situation, but like if I'm stressed, like my upbringing has nothing to do with my stress in the moment. Like I definitely just view like, oh, stressors or mental health, it's just a daily part of living. It's at this point, it's just a part of being alive, and existing. Like just because you have a blessed upbringing, it really has nothing to do with how your mental health is going to develop. Like middle school, high school, being an adult, there are so many points that there's so many different points in those different parts of your lives that's going to stress you out. The stressors I have now, they're different from high school and middle school, but they're still stressors. The stressors I'm about to face when, inshallah, I get into med school, they're going to be different. The stressors I face as an adult, they're going to be different, but they're all stressors. And it's just something that we have to accept that's going to be a daily part of living, but actively recognizing that and actively taking actions to mitigate those and make them better and ultimately make yourself feel better. It's really important that people recognize this. So, yeah.
I
So,
I wanted to say that I really enjoyed the way that you put that, in that we make appointments with doctors and we make appointments with for whoever, but making an appointment with your child or somebody that you know you care about, in order to intentionally set aside time. And I really love the way that that is worded, because I do think that is important and perfectly put, in that making that appointment and intentionally setting aside that time and space to have it, it allows you not to neglect it. And a lot of the times it can be very easily neglected. Okay. I think we are near kind of our finishing period of the workshop
Yeah.
here.
So,
And so, go ahead, Moish.
so we just have a couple of action items. So these are just something we want you to do right now or after the workshop to just kind of help improve your environment. So we have like a couple of tiers. So we have tier 1, tier 2, and then tier 3. So for tier 1, we want you to tell a family or friend, such as your kids, coworkers, about today's session and what you learned. And then if you want to go a little bit further, you can do tier 2, which is just share a little bit about your own mental health with them and how you've been doing. And then for tier 3, ask them how they're doing and keep in mind that about what we talked about as you listen to their answer. So you can do one of them, you can do some of them, you can do all of them, but we want you to leave this workshop with you doing something to improve your mental health environment.
Yeah. Okay. And lastly, we just have our workshop feedback form here, which allows you to tell us, some of the parts of the workshop that you enjoyed, some things that you think that we could include that maybe we're missing. And for our following workshops, we'll be sure to tackle those topics and talk more about those specific things, just so that we can cover the topics that you as a community and as participants and those who are attending the sessions would like to enjoy and benefit from. So thank you all once again for coming to our session today. Thank you for having conversations with us and reflecting and sharing your experiences, because I think being vulnerable to a group of people that maybe you're not so familiar with is a challenging thing. And I applaud that. And I hope that we can all carry that into our personal lives as well.
Thank you so much to both of you for taking your time on the weekend and doing this. And I hope that you have a lot of success in the mission that you're at and all of us are at. Hopefully we can make a better future for the next generations to come and for our own selves. So thank you so much again.
Dr. Khatri, I sent the link for the post workshop feedback form, but I think it's to only hosts and panelists. So if you're able to copy that link and send it to everyone, that would be great.
I just did that.
All right, perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And please feel free to stick around for the next few minutes, and Maywish and I will be here to have any other discussions or answer any questions and so on and so forth.
This was a good icebreaker, I feel, definitely.
Yeah, I'm very glad that you believe that it was a great icebreaker, because that's our exact intention, is to really just begin the conversation. So
yeah,
I'm very interested to kind of see some of the specific topics that the NAMCC community is wanting to hear about and speak more about. I think that will be great. In the future, I hope that we can also have workshop sessions with both the parents and the kids. And
I was going to mention that we have a youth program, so I am very interested to see if we can get you all, present to the youth separately and then to their parents and address the parents without the presence of the youth. I want to say honestly, because I feel like this is a different presenter. We've always heard psychologists, psychiatrists, them come and present. But you are a student yourself. When you are presenting to the parents, I think it's a different audience you're talking to and what you get to present. So I'm very interested in trying to see if we can do that, because we do have that kind of a platform here also. So we could probably make that happen.
Absolutely. And the way that we do that is we do some initial kind of warm up / as you had kind of put it, icebreaker workshops with the parents individually and the kids individually. And then we bring them together for 2 collective workshops where we have them discuss some of these topics together, and more specifically regarding pressures and expectations within their lives, and doing some role playing and some fun activities. And we've seen that has been very enjoyable and very successful to open up some of these conversations. So
good. But your target audience would be more of high school, undergrad, grad school, right?
Yes. So for the younger group, our target is the age of 12 years old and older. So 12 years old to about the undergrad age.
I'm a little skeptical putting all of them together though. I have a feeling I've seen that, I don't know, but the high schoolers and the grad and undergrad students are a little different. They think of themselves as, we're not that teenage kid anymore. We're a
That's
little
so true.
bit more grown than that. And
So
then
true.
the teenagers are at a different level in their lives. So they have a completely different cognitive skill set there. So I think that's something we can do in the future. But yeah, thank you so much. Thank you for your time. And we really appreciate you coming all the way and giving us this and so much passion that you guys are doing. So, alhamdulillah. And we will conclude with a dua. I don't see anybody writing anything in the chat, so I think I'm just gonna end this. But again, I want to let you all know that they have their emails in the links that you all have received. So if anybody's listening to this later and had signed up for it or something like that, then you all can have their email to approach them and write to them anything that you all are interested in having in the future. I think that would be beneficial to us to know your feedback on things. So, and I want to thank Samia for interacting today, because I know you were the only one in the audience, but I do think your input would have benefited somebody also. So thank you so much, Jazakallah khair, for making that happen. So I think I'm just going to conclude with a dua again. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik, ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik. And thank you again, Siddharth and Mehwish, for your time. And everybody else who has joined us here today to take your time on a weekend and listen to it. It does give us a lot of encouragement to continue this.
Thank
And
you
may
all.
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it beneficial for you all. Thank you.
Thank you.